The College Basketball Experience Transfer Portal Winners and Losers edition on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. Sign up today using that promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick'em. First time deposit up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Royal Retros. Royal Retros has jerseys, t-shirts, hats, jackets. Got them all. Sweatshirts from all your favorite old school teams that you love. Use that promo code SGPN for a 10% off your order today. That's code SGPN at royalretros.com. Welcome, everybody, to the College Basketball Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Wednesday night, May the 8th, and we're moving along in the transfer portal. We got a loaded episode. But first, if you wonder who you're listening to, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin, also known as... Welcome to another edition of Mac Tonight over at the College Basketball Experience. And like I said last night on the episode, we'll talk a little more portal, recap the day that it was in college basketball. But first, we got a guest here on the College Basketball Experience. And a familiar face here for those West Virginia fans tuning in. This guy is covering the Mountaineers year-round. Where's he at? There he is. His name is Ethan Bock. He's from the Portal Report and West Virginia Sports Now, friend of the Ryan Rush Show and College Experience. Ethan Bock, no Bock bombs lately. How you doing, my friend?
We're doing good, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. It's been a weird, it's been a quiet but not quiet off season for West Virginia. I think when you compare it to the last off season, nothing's going to top that. So this has been almost just it's been awesome, actually. Like, just being quiet and not really having much going on. But there's still Darren Dury's still rebuilding his group, so he's got 4 more spots to go. So curious how he fills that out.
Yes, indeed. We'll talk plenty Mountaineer, talk plenty Big 12. But first, let's do a macro just on college basketball. We'll talk a little micro of certain moves, certain coaches, away, some of the ones you like, what they did in the portal fits with the coaches. But your thoughts on the state of college basketball right now as we wrap up the spring portal. I'm not saying the portal window is closed because it's never fucking closed. I mean, all you got to do is just push the NCAA and threaten to sue their ass, and you'll probably win. So what are your thoughts, man? You cover this year round, especially in the portal. Thoughts on college basketball as a whole right now?
I think it's in a weird spot where there's a lot of, I guess, modern things or modern ideas in the future, like players getting equal pay, and we already got through that step this past year with the transfer waivers. Now I think we could maybe get into some trouble with the grad transfers not being able to enter in the summer. I think that's another aspect. I just think college basketball, I think the game is it's struggling to get into the future without pushing on the gas. So it's going to be like a slow, steady ride until we're actually into this new era of college basketball. So I know coaches, I think coaches around the country would say transfer portal's a shit show, NIL's a shit show. And I think this offseason capped it. We talked about it a little bit before the show. The transfer portal this offseason, in comparison to the last couple of years, it's just a whole nother animal. And I can't figure out why. I don't know if it's you still have another round of the COVID seniors.
Yeah.
NIL's even bigger now, or just the window being shorter. Coaches moving around a lot this offseason. I don't know what it is. I think it's just a combination of everything. transfers being able to play next year, no matter how many times they've transferred as well. So it's just a lot of moving parts. And I think this offseason is like the first I've noticed where just everybody's burnt out with the portal. And that even includes players. Like, I think some players are getting lost in the shuffle. And that's something else we can dive into here in a minute as well. But I just think overall the state of college basketball is just in like a weird spot where it just can't fully progress into the future. We still try to keep the traditional college basketball era going.
We do. And hold that thought real quick because I got to get this paid real quick. If you're a hardcore baseball fan or degenerate sitting here, probably you are if you're watching this show, and looking for some afternoon baseball action, you want to get over there and subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast wherever you get your podcasts and get some winners over there at the MLB Gambling Podcast. All right, Ethan. Yeah, back to your thought. I agree with you, and I saw a good quote. Head coach at Xavier, Sean Miller, who I think runs a really good program, talking about just that this is like probably going to be the last cycle of what will be. It's still going to be a shit show. Don't get me wrong. It'll never go back to what it was where guys play 4 years at the same institution. But he mentioned 25% of the names in the portal are a result of the COVID year that they granted back in 2021. So you take that out. Next year, maybe we get a little more normals, maybe a little bit more normal, and water down and people actually focus in on right fit in the portal rather than, hey, just give me the quickest bag of cash. And I also think the collectives or the fans are going to get burnt out as well of, oh my God, I just paid for a player A last year and he was supposed to give me 20 and 10. And well, he gave me 8 and 6 instead of the 20 and 10 I was promised. Maybe I don't want to fork over $500,000 for this kid again. You're hitting me for season tickets, donate to the school, donate to parking, beer, everything that comes with the fan experience of going to the games. It adds up over time. I think the fans will get burnt out and then it'll be watered down. I don't know. Do you agree with that assessment of what Sean Miller said with 25% and then also just the fan? I mean, let's be honest here. Inflation's up in America. If people can only afford the bubble before it pops eventually.
I agree with Sean Miller with the 25%. It's just I still think the numbers. So right now we're over 2,000 entries.
Yeah.
Roughly 1,000, 1,100 kids are still available. It's just I think what makes it hard to believe that the number will get down to like 1,500 entries is just guys thinking that they should be earning more or should be having a better role. Because you have two sides of the portal. You have the kids that enter that are trying to transfer up to a high major, or they're already at a high major and they're trying to transfer up to a blue blood, or just to get more NIL money.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side of the kids who are actually trying to use the portal in the way it was intended, which if you're a Power 5 player, you want to get more playing time, transfer down to a mid-major, get your numbers up. Or if you're just trying to find a better team culture, because that's always a case in college basketball. It's just finding that right fit. So you have two types of players that enter, and I can see the numbers going down with the COVID kids. Like you'll still have a little sprinkle next year of like guys that missed a year, had a medical red shirt, and then they have that extra COVID year. But this is the last year of like actually having a whole wave of these guys. So it'll help the numbers out. I just don't know if that means there's going to be more guys that think they're worth more or more guys that are just trying to get more NIL money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting going forward and just how these, if like you said, if there's a collective bargaining, if there's gonna be a salary cap, if the fans, the donors get tired of overpaying for players that don't produce the way that they're promised that they're going to produce. That's another thing. I mean, if I pay you to do a job and you don't do the job, well, I'm not paying your ass again. Go find another job. It's real world shit, but that's enough on the state of college basketball. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse every single night.
Well, I'll end it on a positive note or a positive just opinion.
Please do.
I think if college basketball fully embraces this new era, and when I say college basketball, I'm saying the NCAA. If we embrace, I know it's a big jump, but just embracing the players have power now. If you get everybody on the equal playing field, and if you really turn college athletics into pro sports, really turning it into pro sports and actually have contracts, salaries, just some sort of, I guess, some uniform, I guess, to figure everything out. I think if you have salaries, contracts, that will actually limit the transfer portal issue that we have, which the NIL gets dragged into it with it.
Yeah. Both worlds collided at the same time. That's what's so fascinating about this era is, and it was right when I got out of the industry. I said, I'm getting the fuck out. I see where this shit's going. No, thank you.
Good choice.
For those that don't know my background, I got out of the coaching industry in 2021, right when this ship went like this in terms of just overall stability of the sport. But I mean, there are some pros of the portal and NIL. I feel like it has even the playing field, but the way that they kind of hit the same collision course of you're allowed to transfer with no repercussions while the NIL is coming in too, and then they basically turned into, let's call it what it is, pay for play. I mean, NIL was supposed to be, all right, Johnny Manziel, for example, your name, image, or Tim Tebow, you were really popular. You go do a photo shoot or a commercial down the street, and you don't even have to wear Florida or Texas A&M gear. And they're like, oh, that's Tim Tebow or Johnny Manziel. You get paid for that. Now it's like, hey, man, come over here, give us 20 and 10, and I'll pay you $2.2 million. That's not what the NIL was supposed to be intended, but that's where we're at. And that creates tampering. It's basically legalize all the dark shit that's gone on for years and years in college basketball. But we don't need to go down that, Ethan. I know you were trying to end it on a positive note. You tried, but I always go dark on this topic. But hey, let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about. Let's talk about what one of the pros is. You're able to flip a roster potentially in a year, or you're able to add a piece or two like UConn has done over the last couple of years, like Kansas did a couple of years ago when they won their national championship. Baylor even did it. I know you had to sit out back then. What are some of the teams that you love what they did in the portal so far, as we're, 7 days removed from the window closing?
Yeah, like we talked about with the portal just in general, I feel like we're at this point now where if you have 5-6 spots remaining on your scholarship count, that's actually like the average, which is insane.
I know.
So that's almost like you're almost having a good off season at that point. Because it seems like teams now, it's like 7, 8, 9 guys are flipping every year. So I think what I've learned over the last year is there are certain teams that have calculated this perfectly, and just how to build a roster, how to kind of keep the traditional college basketball game going with 4-year guys while also incorporating transfer portal. So I take a look at the formula that UConn, Houston, Baylor have done, especially over the last few years, and it's perfect. They're able to retain and then retool. So retain some of your rotation. You may lose a few guys at the portal anyway, or the draft, whatever, and then just plug and play with the portal. And then like UConn did this past season, they lost guys at the end of their first title run. A couple guys, and then they just plug and plays. Like even getting a guy like a Cam Spencer is just plugging and playing, or Tristan Newton from seasons ago. UConn's mastered it, and this is why they're at the top of the game. So this offseason, I wasn't necessarily looking at which team's getting 7 quality transfers, because we look at West Virginia last year. They had a lot of talent. It's just they couldn't all get on the floor at the same time. They couldn't mesh. So Baylor's done it perfectly this offseason, bringing in Jeremy Roach and Norchad Omier. So those are 2 top transfers, and then you just plug and play with the rotation that they have. They're definitely going to be top 2, if not the best team in the Big 12 next year.
I honestly, Ethan, I think it's basically the NBA model where you have your core intact, and like you said, UConn they added what Cam Spencer and Castle as a freshman to replace what they're not what Jackson did the year before, but he tried to fill in some of the voids. But losing Hawkins, a shooter, you bring in Cam Spencer. You have your core intact. You add, hey, we need a shooter. We need a defensive guy. We add in the portal. I'm with you on Baylor, where they have none back. They have Love back. They got the talented freshmen coming in, and then you add Roach and Omier. I mean, it's hard to poke holes at this team. The Big 12. I'll go right into the Big 12. Everybody on this show knows I'm a Big 12 homer. What are your just thoughts on what Houston? You mentioned who's had the model: Houston, Baylor, and UConn during this era. Thoughts on what Houston, Baylor, hell, even Iowa State and Kansas have done so far in the portal to kind of separate themselves as four top five, top six teams here headed into next year on paper, at least.
Yeah, I think if Baylor's not two, if Baylor doesn't have the best transfer class in the Big 12, it's Kansas. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to get caught again because I did this last offseason with them because they had a nice transfer class with Dickinson and Timberlake and Arterio Morris too, and a couple other guys, and they lost so many pieces. They lost 8-9 guys to the portal last year. Yep. So I don't want to get ahead of myself on Kansas again because I did this last year, but you can't look past getting guys like an AJ Storr or Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffen as well. Like those three right there. Like, I mean, that's a really good transfer class. I would say that's a top three transfer class in the country. And then you bring back Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, so and KJ Adams too. The fact KJ Adams is possibly coming off the bench is like you have a deep team. Like Kansas last year, their problem was spacing, shooting, and depth. They had no depth. Cincinnati was able to run circles around them in the Big 12 tournament because of that. Mm-hmm. And it didn't help they didn't have McCullough or Dickinson that game. But even with McCullough and Dickinson, Kansas was a 6-7 man lineup. So now Bill Self, and he has his normal high school class coming in. Got 5-star Flory, big dude. Like it's just a typical Bill Self gets a few high school guys that can develop year one, and then it's their team year two. But then you combine that with who they had last year, or who they bring back from last year with their transfer class this year with the guards they got. Like they probably will be preseason number one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Hunter Dickinson fan, but I think year two in that system, he's going to be really good next year. It kind of goes to what you just talked about, where it takes a year, you get him back in the system, and he's more familiar with what Bill Self wants. What about Houston and Iowa State? They get knocked just because they're more defensive oriented and they're not sexy to watch, but yeah, those two teams are two top 5, two top 6 teams next year.
Yeah, the Big 12's, we say this every offseason, but the Big 12's going to be insane going into November. You're going to have potentially 4 teams in the top 10. Then after that, you have a little bit of a drop off. Yeah. Then you're depending on certain teams to step up, get into the top 25. I mean, Houston hasn't done much in the portal, but they didn't have to.
They retained 8 out of their top 10. That helps.
Yeah. And then adding Uzan from Oklahoma, like he's a player. Like and he, like, you can, if you've watched any Oklahoma Sooner games, like you could tell he will fit well with Kelvin Sampson. Like that was the one thing I had about like I was kind of skeptical last year with Houston's class because Damian Dunn and LJ Cryer didn't scream like Kelvin Sampson Houston guards, which is like your tall, athletic guards that can rebound the crap out of the ball and pretty much play defense 94 feet. But I think Uzan fits perfectly with them. And with Iowa State, they lost 4 guys to the portal, but then they reloaded with 4 guys. They didn't have to do much. So And they also bring back guys. That's
Four starters.
That's all the four. Yeah, this is the formula. Like retain and then plug and play in the portal. And Iowa State definitely did that this offseason. I think it took Otts a couple of off seasons to really get that going, but it also took Hurley a few years to get that going at UConn. So now Otts, I feel like, is getting into a groove of mastering that system of plug and play and through the portal. And now Iowa State's going to be potentially a top 5 preseason team in the whole country.
Completely agree. I think throw Kansas out. Kansas has always been good. They can get the best players. They're a blue blood, but Baylor, Iowa State, and Houston, just those 3 coaches had the blueprint, the UConn blueprint of what they've been able to really contend with Kansas year in and year out in the Big 12. I could talk Big 12 all night. I host a Big 12 college experience for a reason, but teams outside the Big 12, a couple teams that you love what they did, a couple pieces I know. Like you said, you're like me where you like quality over quantity. You could pick out USC that's added 9 guys or Michigan that's added 7 guys, but 2 or 3 teams that you love what they did, just a piece or 2.
Yeah, Alabama immediately strikes out to me. Like,
yeah,
I think Nate Oates had a slow start to the offseason. Like coming off a Final Four appearance, he lost a little bit of momentum. But to his credit, like I do like the pieces he got. Starting with Cliff from Rutgers. I mean, it's interesting with him. Like he's one of the best centers in the portal, if not the best center available. But him going from like that slow pace, like defensive minded Rutgers group to Nate Oates, who's going to try to beat you scoring 90 points. It's going to be interesting, but I think he'll be fine. Like he's a talented player. But just pairing him up with Sears and Nelson as well, like he'll be fine. I think it'll take him a little bit, but he'll get used to the pace again. And then it's like Chris Youngblood from South Florida, like stud. Like if you watched when he was at Kennesaw State against Xavier a couple years ago in the tournament, like I mean he almost got them to beat a 3 seed. So he's a skilled player as well. And then the fact that they were able to steal away an Auburn guy and Aden Holloway, like
it's disgusting.
Stealing from your own conference, let alone like your own rival. Like, I mean, we've seen it more. It seems like more this off seasons, like Michigan going to Ohio State. That was George Washington III. Like, just seeing guys. We've seen guys go from their same conference to another team, but going from like the number 1 rival to the other rival is unheard of.
That should be banned. We need to put some rules. Like you can't go West Virginia to Pitt or Pitt to West Virginia. You can't go
protect rivalry transfer.
Yeah. You can't transfer within the Iron Bowl or Michigan, Ohio State, or Cal and Stanford too this year. Stojakovic. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's another one. There's I feel like there's been 3 or 4 of those close rival transfers. But the fact that Nate Oates was able to grab a SEC guard, but let alone an Auburn guard, like he had a good class. 4 guys, they're talented. He brings back some pieces as well from the Final Four team. Like they definitely can contend for the Final Four next year and go back to back.
Oh, no doubt. Real quick, I want to ask about some other teams on the other side, but first we got to talk about Underdog Fantasy because those NBA playoffs are here. The Knicks and Pacers are playing right now. Got on the background. We went higher on Brunson and higher on Halliburton. I think we're trending in the right direction. But get on over there to Underdog Fantasy, and you guys know the drill. It's available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, Canada, and they also just lost their Champions Player versus Player format in Florida. Sign up today using the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. All righty. Back on the college basketball experience. So we've talked kind of top 5, top 10 teams. basically the Big 12 and then Alabama and UConn so far. Team kind of off the radar a little bit that you're looking at. That's maybe not getting as much hype, but you're like, and I kind of like what they did in the portal. I like what they bring back. I think this team is going to be a lot better than what people are giving them credit for.
Yeah, I have to go back to the Big 12 on this. Like I know it, but I know you like it, Mac, but just Grant McCasland at Texas Tech, like
yes,
he didn't have to go and get 8-9 guys, but this is the quality over quantity, and I don't even think the 3 he got are like they're not going to be all Big 12 players year one for one of them, but I just like it's just I think he got the right fits, and I think that's what sometimes we all overlook in the portal. I think we go right to the transfer rankings, look who's the top 10, and it's like, okay, those teams should make a jump next year. But then when you look at WVU or Missouri or LSU in the last couple of years, or especially last year,
Arkansas
this year, yeah, it's like it doesn't always mean that those teams are going to make jumps. But with Texas Tech, like Grant McCasland's going into year 2, he has momentum, and if he has to keep building on that. And I think he got the right fits with his three-person class as of tonight. Federico from Pitt. He's not going to do much for you on offense, but I mean he's going to defend for you. He's a brick wall right in the paint. He's going to get blocks, rebounds. He's a good fit. He's a good fit for what Texas Tech defense is used to. And then the other 2 guys, Elijah Hawkins from Minnesota, he was 4th in the country in assists. Like he's going to share the ball. I think you basically replace Joe Toussaint with Hawkins now, just as your ball handler. Guy's going to dish it out to other guys. Replaces Pop Isaacs as well. And then the third guy they got, Kevin Overton, averaged 11 points in Missouri Valley, Drake, and he has 3 years of eligibility. Like adding like a mid-major all freshman guy like that averaged double figures, he clearly can play in a Power 5 league, and he has 3 years left. Like then you're almost rebuilding already for the next few off seasons, and you can build around Overton if you can retain him. So that was one class that I've like looked at, and it's not like eye popping to like a lot of people. Like it's not eye popping at all, but I just think for the fits that McCasland was looking for, he got his guys.
It almost sounds like Iowa State the first couple years. McCasland's building it brick by brick like Otzelberger, and hopefully what DeVries is doing at West Virginia. And I know, but you and I, we both cover the Mountaineers. We root for the Mountaineers. Thoughts on DeVries and what it helps that you're able to bring over your son, who's the back-to-back Missouri Valley Player of the Year, but he's been very strategic with Chester Frazier, bringing in defensive-oriented guys to surround his son. Javon Small coming over from Oklahoma State was huge, in my opinion, as the number 2 guy. But just the thoughts on the DeVries era so far, a month in Morgantown?
Yeah, he's been like, I think the best way to describe DeVries is like he's in his stat. They're just quiet and calculated. Like, and I think that's a pro for them. But yeah, I mean, obviously you bring over Tucker DeVries, back-to-back Missouri Valley Player of the Year. You established him as your go-to guy from the moment Darren DeVries took the job. So, and I thought for a while, like it took him a few weeks to get his staff in place. And I think some fans were losing some patience, and I get that. But now you look, it's May 8th and they only have 4 spots left. And it seemed like 3 weeks ago, they had 4 guys, and one of them, Noah Farrakhan, he was in that 4 and he transferred. So now they're up to 9 guys, and I like the ads for fits. Like Sincere Harris and Monty Hansberry, Chester Frazier well from Illinois, obviously. And then Nelson Hernandez, bringing Javon Small, and as well as Eduardo Andre. Like these guys are getting their own guys, which is good. I still think they're missing a couple of roles. I think like they need a third guy. I don't know if Toby Okani is going to be able to do it in the Big 12 as the third option. I was kind of picturing him as like your glue guy, starts games, finishes games, but it's hard for me to see him as the third option right now unless he has a crazy summer. So I think one thing West Virginia has to do is go into the portal. You got 4 spots left. You don't have to fill all of them, but go and establish a third option. Like there's still talent in the portal, and I know DeReese likes to play small ball with 4 out, and with the big at the 5, and Andre will be running the 5.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like you just need that second big.
Yes.
In case something happens. Like Hansberry's a young player. Like they need a little bit more front court depth. And then I think to top it off, they just need like a catch and shoot guy. Like I've said it for a while, like a couple weeks now, like a Sean McNeil, like can catch and shoot, get hot, get streaky. You're not asking, he's going to get cold every so often. But a guy that can hit back-to-back threes in transition, get the crowd on their feet.
Sniper off the bench.
Just another guy to provide a spark, especially from perimeter shooting.
Yeah, I'm with you. In Russia, and I cover it over at the Ryan and Rush show all the time, so go check out that, as well as Ethan with West Virginia Sports Now. I think what Otzelberger did in his first 3 years, what McCaslin's doing now in his first 2 years, I think DeVries is going to do the same thing. I think you can win now with the right pieces, but he's also taking transfers that are sophomores and juniors where he's going to have them more than just 1 year. It's not just the K-State or Arkansas model where, hey, let's bring in 10 guys and see if we can flip it right away at Missouri a couple years ago, like you talked about. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, they got to get a couple big bodies inside, especially when you're playing Houston, Kansas, Baylor, and Iowa State night in and night out. You can't go in with one bigger; they're just going to wear your ass out. So let's talk coaches, though. So we talked about DeVries. I think we both agree we like the DeVries hire. We think he kind of fits the Big 12. He's from Des Moines and at Drake, kind of Big 12 country. What about some other hires that you liked? I know there were a lot of headline ones with Calipari, the Mutz Bus, Andy Enfield, a lot of dominoes that created some chaos, but just some hires that you liked this offseason.
Yeah, this coaching carousel this offseason was interesting because like a couple of guys just really threw people off, or threw the whole country off. Like Jake Diebler getting 5 years at Ohio State after 8 games.
Crazy.
Like he is one of the top assistants in the country. Like he's going to be good. I don't think anybody expected Ohio State to promote Diebler for 5 years, basically, or on a 5-year deal. So I think that threw everybody off because Dusty May was linked with Louisville before Louisville had to go to pretty much option 4, just Pat Kelsey. So then Michigan ended up with Dusty May, and Darren DeReese could have ended up at Michigan as well. So that gave DeReese WVU. But one that was really simple and really easy that I really like is Danny Sprinkle to Washington. Just his path from Montana State to Utah State for this past year. Like he's a hell of a coach. Like it's simple. Like if you see clips on social media or just watch his pressers or anything, like you can tell his players really love him. Like there's genuineness to that. And I think he's your modern program builder. Like I think he's going to be able to get Washington competitive in as they make the transition to the Big Ten, which is it's going to take a little bit getting used to. But I think Sprinkle at Washington. I don't know how. I think there's a really good chance that he's not there long at all, and he's taking another and he's using another school as a stepping stone to get higher up. But like that's how good I think Sprinkle is, and just making that transition to a Power 5 job. it's like I said, it's weird for Washington right now because they're not going to be playing West Coast teams night in and night out in conference play. But I would be surprised if it took Sprinkle a few years to really get it going there.
Yeah, he's won wherever he's won or wherever he's been. Yeah, he's won wherever he's won. Yes, but he's won wherever he's been. What about the big dominoes that fell? Cal. So the first one that kind of created all the chaos. Rob Lanier fired at SMU. He takes the Rice job, which I think he's actually going to. I thought he did a decent job at SMU. I thought he got kind of screwed. They went to the ACC.
I think he doubled their wins year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, but they wanted the ACC.
They wanted that ACC. Yeah, I get that, but
yeah. So they bring in Andy Enfield from USC. That creates a must-bust going back to Cali, and then Calipari to Arkansas, which means Mark Pope then goes to BYU, and then Coach Young from the Phoenix Suns goes over to BYU. Thoughts on that? Those crazy dominoes. That kind of was the headline. Only Calipari, by the way, can steal the national championship spotlight.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it like you said, it all started with SMU wanting a better coach heading into ACC ball, and I get it to step up from the American to the ACC, but I think Lanier could have done it. Like, I really don't think it was. I don't think they were in the need to fire him and then go get Andy Enfield. That's to me, that's a questionable move, but. I see where they're trying to go with that, but yeah, the one that threw us off the most, I don't think anybody would have ever thought that Cal would go to Arkansas. Like,
yeah,
we could have seen Cal leaving Kentucky maybe next year, or I think after the loss to Oakland, potentially this offseason. But it seemed like he was going to get locked in for one more year, see if he could get the Wildcats winning again in March. But that didn't last long at all, and he ends up going to Arkansas, and now it's like it's that's another thing that's going to take a while to get used to. And I don't know if I think him going to another program is for the best for him. I think he needed a refresh. Once the one and done era ended, he struggled with. Really, he still tried the one and done route till this year, pretty much, and he's probably going to keep on doing it.
Yeah,
but I think when you incorporate the transfer portal era, and he tried, he would add veteran transfers to pair up with these one and done freshmen, and it just never panned out. It didn't work. So by him going to Arkansas, I think it's good for him to get a new home. I just get a fresh start. But is he going to change his ways at Arkansas? I don't think so. I mean, I don't really see him changing his philosophy from Kentucky to Arkansas. But give him a new environment, see how he does. He's still a hell of a coach. He just needs to be able to find his niche again, which was for years the one and done stuff. So. Now he's just got to find a new philosophy.
Yeah, maybe the COVID guys getting out where you're not playing against 24, 25-year-old men. Instead, you're back to playing against 22-year-olds. Maybe helps him. But, yeah, he's running it back. I mean, he's bringing all his Kentucky guys with him. So looking forward to seeing what happens with Cal. Ethan, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you stopping by the college basketball experience. I'll let you go. I know you're a busy man. The portal a little bit more down this year. Chaos a little bit more down this year, although I know at this point last year it got hectic for West Virginia in the wrong ways. I don't want to go down that path. But plug your stuff, man. Obviously, the Portal Report and West Virginia Sports Now.
Yep, so you can find the rest. Now we're done with the entries. Window closed, so now it's all commits, it's all recruitments. Getting a little back to normal. So you can find me at Ethan Bock _ on Twitter, or as we call it now, X. You can also find our Twitter at the Portal Report, and then also find my West Virginia work at wvsportsnow.com.
You heard the man. He never sleeps. He's always dropping Bach bombs. So get on over there, follow the Portal Report, West Virginia Sports Now, and Ethan Bock. Ethan, appreciate you stopping by the college basketball experience, and we will definitely have you back, my friend.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
All right, man. See you. Ethan Bock from the Portal Report and West Virginia Sports Now. All right, let's real quick. Let's just dive into a couple moves that happened over the course of last night when we went off around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock Eastern. I see Dave. Shout out to the chat. Thanks for you guys rocking with us. Answer a couple questions. David talking about what's the next big coaching change next offseason. Cronin Patino. I really don't know. I'm not going to lie to you because I didn't see Calipari coming. I mean, we all thought maybe he would depart eventually, but not for Arkansas. But so I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe Cronin would try to get out. I got to look at his buyout, what that looks like. I don't think Patino's going anywhere. So yeah, I maybe if Duke, nah, Shire's not going anywhere. I was going to say if Duke does not start winning again, I know they went to the Elite Eight this year. But if Shire if Shire bows out early in the tournament and it's 2 out of 3 early departures in the tournament, I'd be interested to see what happens with him. He always struck me as an NBA guy. Maybe he jumps to the NBA, but I don't know. I'm just speculating. Don't quote me on that. You threw me on the spot. I'm answering it the best I can. But you may see a guy like Tony Bennett retire. You may see a guy like Mark Few retire. You could see that is the next big domino. But yeah, that would kind of be where I would lean next. But I'd have to give it a little more thought, David. Danny Dumbshit, Kenner Davis staying at SIU. Scott Nagy coming over from Wright State. Love that hire. Lots of talent in the Missouri Valley. We need to get the Salukis going, get that thing back to the dance. Scott Nagy's a good coach. I love it. Weehawk, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk. Fuck Kansas. Kansas is going to be good next year. Timothy Green, let's go Mountaineers. Yes, sir, my friend. Real quick, let's dive into a couple ones that we missed. Anthony Dell'Orso going from Campbell to Arizona. David, shooter, makes shots from the perimeter. Good size. Shot 40% from Campbell or from 3 at Campbell. So he's going to be a good fit, much needed for Tommy Lloyd as they transition into the very loaded Big 12 that Ethan and I talked about. Elijah Fisher going over from DePaul to Pacific. We also saw Bryce Lindsey go from A&M to James Madison. KT Ramey, I remember him from DePaul. He's going over to the Mexicans next year. I didn't even realize Ramey had another year of eligibility, but he will finish his eligibility south or north of the border, but in Rio Grande, Texas. Daniel Rivera going over from Bryant to UMass. I know Frank Martin and that staff was excited to get him in there. He's a junior, 6'6", good size, scores the basketball tough. Jordan Burke's going from Kentucky to Georgetown, talented freshman. So we'll see what he looks like for Ed Cooley. RJ Jones going over from K-State to TCU. Yeah, going in the league. So that's always interesting. Kill Watson going over from Arizona State to UMass. So the Minutemen had a big day. Frank Martin, baby, my guy. UMass going to be good again, especially going into the MAC. They're probably going to win the league and be the favorite. It's going to be weird seeing the UMass Minutemen in the MAC next year. Cameron Fletcher going from Florida State to Xavier, 6'6" wing, good size. William Jeffries going over from Pitt to Louisiana Tech. He's from Pitt. Jeffries was a role guy for some of these Pitt teams. Always felt like he was a tad too high at that level. I think he's a really good fit, a really good player at Louisiana Tech next year. Colbert, Gerald Colbert, the big kid from Kansas State, going over to SMU to join Andy Enfield. Good size, played at the high major level. I like the fit there at SMU as they transition into the ACC. Utah State, Jared Calhoun out there, and Logan added a couple guys. They added Drake Allen from Utah Valley, shooter, and Tucker Anderson also from Central Arkansas. And who was it? Brandon Housley coming over from Southern Utah. Ryan Mutombo, son of Dikembe Mutombo, going over from Georgetown to Georgia Tech to play for Damon Stoudemire, NBA connection. And the headliner, was Quadir Copeland going from Syracuse to McNeese State. Will Wade, strong-ass offer, brings him in. McNeese might not lose a game next year in the regular season. I got to check their non-con. I don't think they're going to lose a game in the Southland. They're loaded. They have They have 3 high major guards on their team next year. Will Wade, this will be his last year at McNeese, in my opinion. And then Kibe Kite going over from Utah to BYU. He follows his assistant coach, Burgess, that just took the job at BYU under Coach Young to start the Young era in Provo. Weehawk, yeah, good point on Tab Boyle. Tab Boyle is going to be on the hot seat. He's in the Big 12. That doesn't help. Tough deck of hands he's going to be dealt next year going into Big 12, year number 1, kind of on the hot seat. So Tab Boyle, I know they overachieved last year, but I felt like they could have achieved even more with that roster last year. But we'll see how they do transitioning back into the Big 12 as Tab Boyle coaching the Big 12. He's been at Colorado so long that he was in the Big 12 initially. So he was there for the Pac-12 era, now 2 different stints in the Big 12. But guys, appreciate you rocking with us. We're going to get some more guests on in this offseason. Reminder, subscribe to the College Basketball Experience. Subscribe to all the college experience, college football experience with Colby NC, Nick, and Patty C. College baseball experience with Noah Beanick as we go into Omaha. Big 12 experience with me, Troy, Rush. We're talking expansion tomorrow, sneak peek on what dominoes could fall next. Like I said, if you like the content here, subscribe to the College Basketball Experience. If you don't, well, go fuck yourself. You can subscribe anyway and leave a like or say, hey, I hate this fucking guy. Either way, I'll be here tomorrow night talking college shoots. I'll be here all season long. This is another edition of Mac Tonight over at the College Basketball Experience. You better start thinking about yours. And we are out of here.